2009, I felt the sense of losing my freedom and dignity. Despite the short period of time, but it made me more anxious. A lifetime. I understood how it's possible to get older in just a second as soon as worries surround us. And what worries that overwhelmed me then? I was firstly stripped of my clothes. In a moment I was naked against my will in front of trembling audience of detainees and a mean dark blue handful of jailers staring to my violated body that was charred and burned until that cold shiver hit me that suppressed all my feelings and stripped me of my humanity in an instant. That horrible experience was repeated over and over within hours and not days. And how enough was it to kill in me any hope of living with dignity among these monsters? Naked human chain, shackled to our legs, we were driven from one cell to another. We were like sheep being driven to their slaughterhouses. On that day, I was sure that I had been sold, like the rest, at the cheapest price. And within the walls of my robbed homeland, there is no human value or dignity. There's just a cancer that has permeated our history, fragmenting us, eating us alive, and getting high in our freaking silence, turning life into a barrenness. So we don't even die from that torment, nor does this fucking cancer leave. Neither his young age, nor his innocent childhood, interceded for him in front of their brutality and their thirst to suck the life out of his eyes. A lame little boy I saw sitting among the crowd of our naked bodies, humming about something and shaking his body as if he was in a biblical prayer. I looked around again and examined my new cell. Perhaps I find something logical. Perhaps it was my naivety at that time that prevented me from seeing the whole pictures, as an illusion took hold in my mind that there are limits to what's going on. I had not yet accepted the idea of having a minor child with us. And how naive I was. I am the 20 years old young man. They haven't taken everything away from me yet. I said it to myself and gathered my strength and approached him until I sat next to him in his crowded corner and asked him for his name. He didn't respond or care about me. He didn't even look at me and just continued his hum. I told him my name and asked him again about his name, and he answered me then with some nonsense words, and he said, Jaja fi sani, and he repeated, Jaja fi sani. One of the detains next to him turned to me and told me, please, leave him alone before he starts screaming. I thought he was his father and asked him, is he a relative or know him? He told me that he don't know him at all and he was just in this cell with other detains several months ago. I was still seeking for some logic and asked him why he is even here. He committed a crime against the state. He answered me with confidence and turned his face away. I couldn't ask him more. For some reason I remained silent in my place and I didn't move my eyes on the child who just trembles at the same time. in the custom of imprisonment, when the detainee leaves his place in the cell, he loses it and cannot return to it. In order to imagine this situation, you have to think and imagine, and I mean here the realistic picture of the scene, that there are 50 to 60 detainees placed together in one cell no more than 12 square meters, and as soon as one of them stands up or leaves his place, it will be immediately taken from those who are standing. So in the next day I was still insisting on completing the picture and knowing the reason for the child's presence here, until I found a detainee who had spent about 7 months in this cell and asked him if he knows something about this child. He told me that they brought him here 5 months ago, and he was trembling and his tears didn't dry out, and then told them about the reason for his arrest. His accusation was that the flock of sheep that belonged to his family was nearby one of the military bases in the area, and their guard dog picked up a dead chicken from the military base's waste dump. Then the soldiers arrested the 11-year-old child then, who was there alone, on charges of theft and trespassing on army property. Over the months, he remained alone in the cell without anyone paying attention to him, without any communication with his family or the outside world. And he was constantly retelling the story to everyone who asked him, until his mental health deteriorated and he started repeating these 2 words wrongly, Jaje Fisani, which is mean a dead chicken. At that moment, my head fell downward, as if I could no longer bear or understand this reality we live in. I looked at those around me, boys and men, and looked at their bare faces, their drowned souls, their broken hopes, and asked myself, where am I really? Was this high cement wall really all that separated me from reality after all these years? Or is it the falsity entrenched in my mind which they filled about the love of homeland? Is it the concrete of the iron cell walls that catch our dreams? Or is it the hammering nails that crucifying our will to live? What an illusion I have been living for 20 years. And what a slight hope I was holding on to as I entered a new year in this cell. I was led in handcuffs with both my arms up to be a part of a human chain again. We were lined up for hours on our journey into the unknown, our bodies swaying and our wrists squeezing as the trailer shaking. In that deep place at the edge of time, I lost all my memories. My fears of the future was dispelled. I became alive for the first time, breathing the air with a different taste. In the early morning, on the side of the road in a remote place, I get out, where there was no trace of life except a freezing fog, whose silence could only be broken by the roar of our handcuffs. My human instincts awakened in me there, devoid of every illusion and every false faith. I accepted the life, not our reality, but with all its contradictions. I loved the life at the first time as I became a beast smiling in the face of my jailer, and I am totally confident that no matter what he does to me or tries, that love will not be extinguished from my eyes.